I always thought the sound of keys jingling in my purse meant freedom. After 14 years of double shifts, cold dinners, and praying over overdue bills, that little set of keys to Mama's old house was my crown. It wasn't a mansion, just a small brick home on a quiet street in Charlotte, North Carolina. But to me, it was everything. It was proof that every sleepless night and every we'll make it work somehow had finally meant something. I just sent in my final mortgage payment the week before. I remember standing on the porch that morning, coffee in hand, the sun coming through the dogwood trees, feeling safe. Like for the first time in decades, I could breathe. I even whispered to myself, "You did it, Sharon. Mama would be proud." That's when my phone rang. My sister, Camille. "Hey, big sis," she said in that sugary tone she only used when she wanted something. "You at the house?" I replied, smiling faintly. "Just finished cleaning the porch." "Why?" She hesitated. "No reason, just checking on ya. Been thinking about Mama's place a lot lately, how it's part of both of us, you know?" I should have caught it then, that little shift in her voice, that measuring way she said both of us. But I was just happy she called. Camille hadn't been around much since Mama's funeral. She was always chasing some new idea, some new man, some new excuse. Still, she was my baby sister, and I loved her like I'd raised her myself. That evening she stopped by, all smiles with her bright red nails and that loud laugh that filled the room. "You look tired, Sharon. Working too hard again?" I laughed softly. "Comes with paying bills." She walked around the living room, running her hand across the walls. "It's so nice, you know. Hard to believe this place has finally paid off." When she said that, I noticed how long she lingered by the desk, the one where I kept my documents. But I didn't think much of it. I was too busy making her coffee, trying to ignore the old ache of missing Mama. The next morning, I drove to the county records office to request the copy of my deed. The clerk, a young woman with kind eyes, pulled up my file. Then she frowned. "Ma'am," she said gently, "this property isn't under your name anymore." I blinked. "Excuse me? It shows it was transferred last week to a Camille Williams?" I felt my knees buckle. The room tilted. For a moment, I thought I was going to pass out right there on that linoleum floor. The clerk looked nervous. "Do you know this person?" "Yes," I whispered. "She's my sister." I don't remember driving home. I just remember sitting in my car parked outside what used to be my house, staring at the front door. Camille's car wasn't there, but her betrayal hung in the air like smoke. Every corner of that house carried my sweat, my prayers, my sacrifices. And she had taken it, signed it away like it meant nothing. I tried to call her again. This time, she answered. "Camille, what did you do?" I demanded, voice shaking. "Relax. It's just paperwork. I'm handling some financial stuff for us." "For us? You forged my signature." "Don't be dramatic, Sharon. I'll pay you back when I sell it. We'll both come out ahead." I went silent. That was the moment my heart broke, not just from losing a house, but from realizing my own blood saw me as a bank account, not a sister. "Camille," I said quietly, "you sold Mama's house?" "Already in motion," she said. "The buyers close next week. You'll thank me later." I hung up. My hands were trembling, my throat dry. I pressed my forehead against the steering wheel and the sobs came, raw, painful, uncontrollable. I cried for Mama, for the years of labor, for every time I believed family meant safety. By evening, a for sale sign appeared in front of the house. I wanted to rip it out of the ground. I wanted to scream until my voice gave out. But instead, I stood there, shaken, watching the sun set behind the home that had been stolen from me by the one person I trusted most. As the porch light flickered on, I whispered into the wind, "You took everything from me, Camille, but I swear to God, you won't take my peace."
The next morning, I woke up to the sound of metal clinking. At first, I thought it was the garbage truck outside, but when I stepped onto the porch, I saw a stranger crouched by my front door, changing the lock. "Excuse me," I yelled, walking closer, my robe flapping in the wind. What do you think you're doing? The man stood, clipboard in hand, avoiding my eyes. Ma'am, this property's under new ownership. We were told to secure it today. My stomach twisted. No, this is my house. You've got the wrong address. He glanced at his paperwork. Sharon Williams? Yes, he sighed, pointing at the form. Transfer completed last week. The new owner's listed as Camille Williams. For a second, everything went quiet, even the birds. Then the air left my lungs like I'd been punched. She didn't waste a single minute, I whispered. The man's eyes softened. Ma'am, I'm just doing my job. You can call the realtor if you need to clear it up. Clear it up? I laughed bitterly. She's my sister, and she just stole my life. He hesitated. I'll give you a few hours before we finish, okay? I nodded, numb. When I went inside, the air felt different, colder. My home, my sanctuary, was now just a shell I didn't own. I walked through each room slowly, touching the walls, the photo frames, the worn armrest on the couch Mama had bought from a thrift store. That's when I saw it, a folded note taped to the fridge, Camille's handwriting. Sharon, don't be mad. I did what I had to do. You've been sitting on this place for years, doing nothing with it. I need the money, and you'll be okay. You always are. You're strong. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Love you. See, my hand shook so bad the note nearly tore in half. I wanted to call her, to scream, but my voice felt buried under a mountain of disbelief. You'll be okay. The words echoed in my head like an insult. She had taken every dollar I'd earned for 11 years and still had the nerve to call it love? I grabbed my phone and called my best friend, Denise. She answered on the first ring. Girl, what's wrong? You sound like you seen a ghost. I think I just lost my house, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Lost it how? My sister sold it behind my back. There was a silence on the line, then a sharp intake of breath. Camille? You mean the same Camille that always got her hand out? Sharon? No. Tell me you're joking. I wish I was. Lord have mercy, whispered Denise. You called the police yet? I went to the county office yesterday. The paperwork's all legal. She forged my signature and notarized it somehow. Then we need to go to a lawyer. With what money? I snapped before softening. I've got $112 in my account. The rest was tied up in that house. Denise's voice trembled with anger. She always been selfish. But this is evil. By afternoon, movers arrived. The same ones I'd used years ago when I'd moved in. Only now, they were hauling my furniture out. I sat on the front steps watching strangers carry away pieces of my life while the sun baked the tears on my face. One of them, a young man with kind eyes, asked quietly, "You okay, ma'am?" I forced a smile. I will be. When the last box was gone, I stood alone in the empty house. The echo of my footsteps sounded like heartbreak. I walked into Mama's old bedroom, still smelling faintly of lavender oil, and sank to the floor. I pressed my hand against the wood, whispering, I tried, Mama. I really did. That evening, Camille finally called. Her voice was calm, almost cheerful. Hey, sis, you moved out yet? Moved out? My voice broke. You took everything from me, Camille. Everything. Oh, stop being dramatic. You'll find another place. I'll send you a little something once the sale closes. Camille, you sold Mama's house, her legacy. You had no right. I had every right, she snapped. Mama wanted both of us to have something. You were hogging it like it was your birthright. She left it to me because I took care of her. Yeah, well, now it's mine. Maybe you should have been nicer to me growing up. The line went dead. I sat there staring at my phone, feeling the last thread of family snap inside me. I wasn't just losing a house. I was losing the last piece of home I had left. By nightfall, I was parked in my old Toyota at a gas station, 2 suitcases in the back seat, a half-eaten sandwich on the dashboard. I watched people come and go, couples laughing, kids running to their parents. And for the first time in my life, I felt invisible. But deep inside, beneath the humiliation and heartbreak, something started burning. Slow but steady. Camille thought she'd broken me, but she just lit a fire I didn't know I still had. The first night I slept in my car, I kept the engine off but the windows cracked, afraid someone might notice me parked behind the gas station. The air was heavy with the smell of diesel and old coffee, and every few minutes, I'd jerk awake at the sound of footsteps or tires on gravel. It was hard to believe that 3 days ago, I was folding laundry in my own living room. Now I was curled in the driver's seat, clutching my purse like it held my last piece of dignity. When dawn came,
I drove to the park across town and washed my face in the restroom sink. I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror, eyes swollen, hair matted, lips cracked. I looked like a stranger, a woman undone. Denise called around noon. "Where are you?" I hesitated. "At the park." "Girl, you can't stay in no park. Come stay with me for a bit." "I appreciate it, Dee," I said softly, "but I need to figure this out myself. I can't be a burden." "You are not a burden. You're my sister in Christ. Don't let pride keep you from being safe." I smiled through tears. "Let me try to handle this for a few days, okay? I'll call if I need to." After we hung up, I sat on a bench, staring at the people walking their dogs, kids chasing bubbles, couples holding hands. The world kept spinning, completely unmoved by my disaster. I opened my worn wallet, $112 and a grocery store receipt. That was my entire fortune. My mind drifted back to Camille. I pictured her sitting in some cafe, probably sipping a latte with that fake laugh of hers, telling people about her big real estate move. Rage bubbled in my chest. How could she? How could my own sister look me in the eye and steal the roof over my head? I pulled out my phone again and scrolled through our old messages. Birthdays, inside jokes, photos from Mama's funeral. There we were, side by side, arms around each other, promising to stick together no matter what. Lies. That evening, as the sun set over the city, I parked near a 24-hour diner. The neon lights buzzed like a heartbeat. I went inside, ordered the cheapest thing on the menu, black coffee and a small plate of fries, and sat by the window. The waitress, a young girl with box braids and tired eyes, gave me a sympathetic smile. "Rough day?" she asked. "Something like that," I said. She nodded knowingly. "You'd be surprised how many folks come in here just needing somewhere to sit for a while." Her kindness hit me harder than I expected. I blinked back tears and whispered, "Thank you." Later, when I stepped back into the night, the parking lot felt colder. I climbed into the car, pulled a blanket over my legs, and stared up at the ceiling. Every creak and groan of that old Toyota felt like a heartbeat beside mine. Somewhere between exhaustion and grief, I started talking to Mama out loud. I murmured, "You always said blood was thicker than water. But what happens when blood turns poisonous?" A tear slid down my cheek. "I tried to do right, Mama. I worked, I saved, I took care of everybody, and this is how they repay me?" The silence that followed was thick and heavy, like the night itself was holding its breath. By the third day, I'd stopped crying. Survival kicked in. I started going to the library each morning to stay cool, charge my phone, and use the Wi-Fi. I looked for jobs, cleaning, caregiving, anything, but my resume felt outdated, my energy thinner than my hope. Still, I applied. I refused to let Camille's betrayal define the rest of my life. That afternoon, a woman sitting beside me struck up a conversation. Her name was Gloria, mid-50s, a retired nurse volunteering at a shelter downtown. She noticed the tired look in my eyes, the same one, she said, she'd seen in too many women starting over. When I told her my story, or at least the polite version, she reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Baby, sometimes God lets you lose everything so you can see who's truly with you. Come to the shelter tonight. We'll get you a warm bed and a hot meal." For a moment, my pride almost said no, but something in her voice, firm, kind, motherly, made me nod. That night, for the first time in days, I slept in an actual bed. The cot was small, the blanket thin, but the kindness in that room was thicker than anything I'd felt in weeks. As I drifted off, I whispered to myself, "You're still standing, Sharon. You're bruised, but you're breathing." The next morning, as I sipped the shelter's instant coffee, Gloria came over. "You know, we've got a few women here trying to rebuild after family took advantage of them. Maybe your story could help someone." I smiled faintly. "Right now, I don't even know how to help myself." She chuckled. "That's how it starts. You survive one more day, and the rest begins to unfold." For the first time since losing my home, I felt something fragile but real stir inside me, a small, stubborn spark of hope. But hope didn't erase reality. When I checked my voicemail later that day, there was one new message. It was Camille. Her voice was bright, almost mocking. "Hey, sis, just wanted to let you know the sale went through. Got a great deal. I'll send you something soon. Hope you're doing okay out there."
My hands clenched so tight the phone nearly cracked. That spark of hope, it turned to fire. 3 weeks passed since I'd last seen the house on Waverly Street. In those weeks, I'd gone from disbelief to despair, then from despair to something sharper, resolve. I still woke up some nights sweating, dreaming of that porch light flickering against the for sale sign. But each morning, I forced myself to stand up, wash my face, and whisper, "You're still here, Sharon. You're still fighting." The shelter had become a strange kind of lifeline. The staff treated me with dignity, and the women there, Lord, they carried stories heavier than mine. One had escaped an abusive marriage. Another had lost her job after caring for her sick child. Every night, we'd sit in a circle, trading small bits of our pain like confessions whispered to the dark. Still, every time I closed my eyes, I saw Camille's face, her smirk when she said, "You'll thank me later." I could almost smell her perfume when she came to visit the house that last time. Expensive, floral, fake. One Tuesday morning, Gloria walked over to me during breakfast. "Something came for you," she said, handing me a plain white envelope. No return address. My heart skipped. "For me?" She nodded. "Your name's written clear as day." I tore it open with shaky fingers. Inside was a cashier's check for $2,000 and a short note scribbled in Camille's handwriting. "Don't say I never helped you. See." I felt the blood drain from my face. My stomach turned. $2,000 after she'd stolen a house worth over 200 grand? The home I'd worked 14 years to pay off? Gloria's brow furrowed as she watched me read. "That from her?" I nodded, tears burning in my eyes. "Yeah, it's from the devil herself." "Don't cash it," Gloria said softly. "Not yet. Money tied to pain can poison your spirit if you take it too soon." Her words hit me deep. I folded the check and slipped it into my Bible. Not to use, but to remind myself what betrayal looks like in writing. That night, I sat by the shelter window, staring out at the city lights, thinking about Mama. She'd always said, "When family cuts you, the wound bleeds twice, once for the hurt and once for the memory." I finally understood what she meant, but I also heard another of her sayings echoing in my head. "The same hands that break you can't build your peace." That's when I made my decision. I was done crying. I was done waiting for apologies that would never come. If Camille could forge my signature and manipulate a sale, maybe I could find a way to expose her. The next morning, I went to the library again. The librarian, Miss Cooper, a tall woman with gray twists and glasses that hung low on her nose, had gotten used to seeing me there. "Morning, Miss Sharon," she said kindly. "Research day again." I nodded. "Yeah, I need to learn about property fraud." She blinked. "That sounds serious." It is. For hours, I dug through legal websites, case files, and housing laws. My head spun from all the legal jargon, but a few words stuck with me. Title fraud, forgery, notary misconduct. Each one felt like a thread, and if I pulled them hard enough, maybe I could unravel Camille's web. Later that week, Gloria helped me schedule a meeting with a volunteer attorney who visited the shelter twice a month. His name was Mr. Avery, a middle-aged black man with silver-rimmed glasses and the calm tone of someone who'd seen too many broken hearts walk through his door. After listening to my story, he leaned back in his chair. "Sharon, I've handled property fraud cases before, but this one, it's tricky. Your sister had fake notarization, and if she's already sold it, it's tough to reverse. So there's nothing I can do?" I asked, voice trembling. He hesitated. "Not nothing. If we can prove the signature's forged and the buyer acted in bad faith, you could have a case. But it'll take time and patience." I exhaled. "Time I have. Patience? That depends on the day." He smiled slightly. "I'll file the first inquiry letter, but you'll need to find out where your sister is now. Do you know?" I shook my head. "She disappeared after that call." Mr. Avery scribbled something in his notebook. "Then that's where we start. Find Camille." The words sounded simple, but they hit me like a dare. Find Camille. That night, I couldn't sleep.
I kept picturing her laughing somewhere, spending my mother's legacy. I replayed every memory of her. The years I'd paid her phone bill when she couldn't. The times I babysat her son while she went out. The birthday gifts she never returned. It all added up to one truth. I'd built her comfort while she planned my downfall. Around midnight, I whispered to the ceiling, "I'm coming for you, Camille. Not for revenge, for justice." 2 days later, Gloria helped me borrow a church laptop and track Camille's old social media profiles. Her Facebook hadn't been updated in months, but her Instagram was still public. And there it was, a new post. Camille standing in front of a fancy restaurant in Atlanta, smiling wide, captioned, "New beginnings. God is good." I stared at the photo until my jaw clenched. She looked radiant, glowing even, but all I saw was greed disguised as grace. I screenshotted everything and emailed it to Mr. Avery. Then I leaned back in my chair, my pulse steady. I wasn't done, not by a long shot.
When I sent that screenshot to Mr. Avery, I half expected him to say, "Good job, we found her." Instead, he called me 2 days later with a tone that made my stomach tighten before he even said a word. "Sharon," he began carefully, "I looked into the sale record. You're not going to like what I found." My heart skipped. "What is it?" "The buyer who purchased your house." He paused. "It wasn't a stranger. It was listed under a holding company, Williams Real Estate Trust." "Williams," I repeated slowly, my pulse quickening. "That's our last name." "Yes," he said, "and the company was registered 2 months before the sale. The listed owner is your sister, Camille, but there's a co-owner." I clenched the phone tighter. "Who?" He hesitated. "A man named Derek Walker." The world went silent for a beat. Then I said his name again, this time like it burned my tongue. Derek, my ex-boyfriend. I hadn't spoken that name in years. Derek was the man who helped me get through Mama's funeral. The man who said he loved me, then walked out when I wouldn't co-sign a car loan. I never expected to see his name tied to mine again, especially not in the middle of a crime. "I know this is hard to hear," Mr. Avery continued, "but it looks like they worked together to transfer the title and flip it for profit." I could hardly breathe. "So they both stole from me?" "That's what it looks like. And if I had to guess, he's the one who handled the paperwork." I pressed a hand to my chest. "Lord, I thought I already lost everything. Turns out I lost it twice." "Don't lose faith, Miss Williams," he said gently. "If we can prove collusion, it strengthens your case, but we need evidence. Emails, texts, bank transactions, anything linking them." When we hung up, I just sat there, staring out the window of the shelter, my reflection faint against the glass. I wasn't just betrayed by blood now, I was betrayed by love too. That night, I walked the streets of downtown Charlotte, thinking. The air smelled of fried food and rain, and the city buzzed with people who had no idea how much heartbreak existed on these same sidewalks. I passed a pawnshop window and saw my face reflected between rows of dusty jewelry, pieces that once meant love to someone, now sold for survival. I thought about Derek, his easy smile, his smooth talk, the way he'd always found his way back into my life when he needed something. And Camille? She was just naive enough, or cruel enough to believe his lies. Together, they'd stolen everything I built. By morning, I was done being quiet. I borrowed the shelter's phone and called Mr. Avery back. "I want to go after both of them," I said. "Legally, publicly, I don't care, but I'm not letting them win." "That's the spirit I need from you," he said. "Meet me tomorrow at the courthouse. Bring every document you still have from the house. We'll file an affidavit to freeze the sales proceeds if they haven't withdrawn the funds yet." Done. That night, I spread out my life across the cot. Old tax forms, letters from the mortgage company, bank statements, every scrap of paper I could find. My whole life, reduced to documents and determination. Gloria walked by and stopped at the sight of the papers. "You building your case, honey?" "I'm building my comeback," I said with a small smile. She nodded proudly. "That's what I like to hear. Don't let the devil write your ending." At dawn,
I rode the bus downtown. The courthouse steps loomed like a mountain, but I climbed every one with my head high. Inside, Mr. Avery met me at the security line holding a folder. "We're filing today," he said, smiling. "You're officially fighting back." As he walked me through the process, I felt something strange. Power, not the kind that comes from money or revenge, but from standing up for yourself after the world tries to knock you down. But life wasn't done testing me yet. That evening, when I got back to the shelter, Gloria waved me over. "You got another letter," she said. This one had a return address, Atlanta, Georgia. I opened it slowly. Inside was a short note in Derek's handwriting. "You don't know the full story, Sharon. Camille needed me. I just helped her handle the sale. You were never supposed to get hurt. I can explain if you'll just call me." I laughed out loud, bitterly, painfully. He helped her handle the sale. That's what betrayal sounded like, dressed in excuses. I read it again, though, noticing something odd. The letterhead was from a company I didn't recognize, ATL Property Group. The logo looked professional. Too professional for Derek. I scrolled further. The company's latest project listed Waverly Street Residence, acquired May 2024, renovation in progress. My heart pounded. My house, they hadn't even sold it yet. I grabbed my phone and called Mr. Avery immediately. "They still have the house. It's listed under another name, but it's the same address." He paused. "Then we have leverage. We can file an injunction before it's sold again." That's when I smiled for the first time in months. A small, trembling smile, but real. "Then let's make them answer for what they did." That night, I slept deeper than I had in weeks. The cot was still hard, the room was still noisy, but I had something no one could steal: hope, mixed with purpose. Still, as I drifted off, one thought lingered. If Camille and Derek are working together, what else are they hiding?
The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. My mind wouldn't stop racing. The thought that my house, Mama's house, still existed under someone else's name filled me with a strange mix of fury and hope. At the courthouse, Mr. Avery met me again, holding a thick folder. His eyes had that tired gleam lawyers get when they know the fight's just starting. "We filed the injunction," he said. "The courts agreed to a temporary freeze on any further sale or renovation until a hearing date. Does that mean they can't touch it?" I asked, almost afraid to believe it. "For now, yes, but we'll need solid evidence to keep it that way." I nodded. "Then let's find it." We spent the day digging through public property records. Every click on the old computer felt like peeling back a layer of deceit. When I saw my name erased from those digital files, replaced by Camille Williams and Derek Walker, something in me hardened. "See this?" Mr. Avery said, pointing to a scanned document. "This transfer wasn't notarized properly. The signature looks copied. Look at the pixel blur here." I leaned closer. He was right. The scrawl that was supposed to be mine looked stretched, duplicated, artificial. "That's not my signature," I whispered. "Exactly. We can use that." He smiled for the first time that day. "You might not just get your house back. You might see both of them facing charges." But my stomach still twisted. Camille was my baby sister. I changed her diapers, walked her to her first day of school. I taught her to braid her hair and bought her shoes when she couldn't afford them. Now she was sitting somewhere, probably sipping wine with Derek, pretending she hadn't burnt her own blood for a pile of cash. That night, back at the shelter, Gloria found me staring at the ceiling. "Baby, you look like your spirit's walking somewhere else," she said softly. "I found out the signature on my deed was forged." She gasped. "That's a serious crime." "I know," I paused. "And my sister did it." Gloria shook her head slowly, her voice low. "Family will cut you deeper than a stranger ever could." She was right. And yet, I still didn't hate Camille. I hated what she'd become. The next morning, I went to the old neighborhood. I hadn't been back since the eviction, but I needed to see the house. When I turned onto Waverly Street, I stopped dead. The house was there,
half painted, scaffolding up, a construction in progress sign planted in the yard. A truck was parked out front with the ATL Property Group logo on its side. I stood across the street, heart hammering. Workers carried planks through the open door. My door. "Can I help you, ma'am?" One of them asked kindly when he noticed me watching. "I used to live here," I said. He smiled politely. "Beautiful house. The new owners are fixing it up real nice. Should be on the market again in a month." A month. That was all the time I had before my mother's house, my entire life's worth, was gone forever. I thanked him quietly and walked away before he could see my tears. Later that evening, I sat with Mr. Avery again. "We have to stop them fast," I said. "They're already renovating." He nodded. "Then we'll file for a restraining order on the property itself, not just the sale. But Sharon, there's something else." He handed me a copy of another record, an old one, dated 2 years before the sale. I scanned the lines until one phrase made me go cold. "Power of attorney granted to Camille Williams, signed by Sharon Williams." I looked up sharply. "I never signed this." "I figured as much," he said. "It looks like your sister used that document to claim she had authority to transfer the deed." I felt dizzy. That's how she did it? That's how she sold Mama's house? Exactly. But we can prove it's forged. If we get your handwriting samples and notarized statement, the court will take this seriously. I sat back, numb. So she forged my name twice, once for the power of attorney and once for the sale. Yes. This wasn't just betrayal, Sharon. It's fraud. I pressed my hand over my mouth as the reality sunk in. My own sister had built a house of lies, brick by brick, on my mother's grave. When I left the courthouse that day, rain began to fall. Cold, thin rain that clung to my skin and hair. I didn't bother running. I walked slow, letting it wash over me. Somewhere between the courthouse and the bus stop, I made a silent promise. I will not let her rewrite my story. Not this time. That night, back in the shelter, I started gathering handwriting samples. Old letters I'd sent Mama, birthday cards I'd written Camille, even my old job applications. Gloria helped me sort through everything. "You gon' make her face the truth," she said with quiet conviction. "Yes," I said, "even if it breaks what's left of me." 2 days later, Mr. Avery called. "We're in motion. The district attorney's office wants to meet. They've seen your documents." For a moment, I couldn't speak. I just closed my eyes, and for the first time in months, I felt like justice might actually walk beside me. But before we hung up, he said something that made my blood run cold. "Sharon, one more thing. We subpoenaed the financial records tied to the sale. The proceeds weren't deposited into Camille's account or Derek's." I frowned. "Then where did the money go?" "That's the thing," he said. "The funds were transferred to a third account under your mother's name." I froze. "That's impossible. Mama's been gone for 7 years." "I know," he said quietly. "But someone reopened an account in her name 2 months before the sale."
I sat frozen in Mr. Avery's office, his words echoing like a bell that wouldn't stop ringing. "Someone reopened your mother's bank account 2 months before the sale." My breath caught. "That can't be right. Mama's been gone 7 years. She's buried in Southview." He nodded grimly. "I confirmed with the bank. The account number matches your mother's old one, but it was reactivated with new identification." "New identification?" I repeated. "As in someone pretending to be her?" "Yes, fake ID, social security number, all updated under her name. We suspect whoever did this used the identity to receive the wire transfer from the property sale." For a moment, I couldn't move. I just stared at the folder in his hands like it might burst into flames. "Do you know who accessed it?" He hesitated. "Not yet, but I have a feeling your sister knows exactly who." I felt the air thicken around me. Camille's betrayal had already taken so much. My house, my savings, my peace. But now she was desecrating Mama's memory too. When I left the office, my knees trembled so badly I had to sit on the courthouse steps. The city buzzed around me. Cars, horns, chatter, but it all sounded far away, like I was underwater. Mama's voice whispered in my memory, "Don't let this world make you bitter, Sharon. Bitterness will rot you from the inside." I closed my eyes. "I'm trying, Mama, but it's so hard." Later that evening, back at the shelter, Gloria saw me come in looking like I'd seen a ghost. "Girl, what happened?" she asked, setting down her crossword. "They reopened Mama's bank account. The one that was closed when she died, that's where they put the money." Gloria's eyes went wide. Lord have mercy. I thought Camille was just greedy, but now it's criminal. It's evil. She took my hand. "You gonna have to keep walking, Sharon. You already done made it this far." I nodded slowly, but inside a storm was brewing. I wanted justice, not out of revenge, but because Mama's memory deserved peace. The next morning, I went back to the neighborhood. I couldn't help it. Something told me I'd find answers there. When I turned the corner onto Waverly Street, I froze. Camille's car, the red Lexus she always bragged about, was parked 2 houses down from Mama's old place. For a moment, I thought my eyes were playing tricks, but then she stepped out, wearing sunglasses, looking every bit the woman who thought the world owed her something. My pulse raced. I hadn't seen her in person since the eviction. She didn't see me at first. She was too busy talking to a man in a black SUV, someone I didn't recognize. He handed her a folder. She glanced through it, then nodded, and slipped it into her purse. Every instinct told me to stay hidden, but my heart overruled my head. I crossed the street slowly. "Camille," she turned, startled, her mouth parting. For a moment, I saw guilt flash across her face. Then she masked it with that cool, practiced smile. "Well, if it isn't Big Sister Sharon." "Don't you big sister me," I snapped. "What are you doing here? Checking on the property, since, it's under new management." I stepped closer. "Don't play games with me. I know the forged signature, the fake power of attorney, the account in Mama's name." Her eyes darted sideways, then back at me. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I do. And the DA's office does too. They're investigating." Her smile faltered. "You wouldn't." "I already did." For the first time, her mask cracked. "You think this is gonna make you whole again? You think dragging me through court gonna bring Mama back?" Tears welled up, but I didn't let them fall. "No, but it'll stop you from stealing what little I have left." She scoffed. "You always were dramatic." I stared at her, heart pounding. "Why, Camille? Why do this to me? I loved you like my own child." She looked away. "You wouldn't understand. Try me." When she finally met my eyes again, her face softened just a little bit. "I was drowning, Sharon. Derek left me. I was broke. The house was just sitting there collecting dust." "So you stole it?" "I borrowed it," she snapped. "I was going to pay you back once I got on my feet." "With what, Camille? The ashes of Mama's memory?" She flinched, her lip trembling. But then, just like that, she straightened up again. "You always thought you were better than me. You had the nice job, the clean life, Mama's praise. I just wanted something of my own." I felt the tears burning now. "So you took mine." Silence stretched between us, heavy as a confession. Then she turned and walked toward her car. "You can't undo what's been done. Let it go." "Camille," I called after her. "Mama's watching. She's watching us both." But she didn't look back. The Lexus sped away, tires screeching as rain started to fall. I stood there, soaked and shaking as thunder rolled in the distance. Later that night, I met with Mr. Avery again and told him everything. He listened, frowning. He said, "We'll add this to the case file. That man she met might be connected to the forged ID. I'll get the DA to trace the SUV's plate." As I left his office, I whispered to myself, she might have stolen Mama's house, but she won't steal her legacy. For the first time since losing everything, I felt something stir deep in my chest. Not rage, not despair, but resolute. Mama used to say, "The truth may walk slow, but it never loses its way." And I knew then, no matter how long it took,
The truth was coming for Camille.
The next few days blurred together. Every morning I woke before dawn, not because of hope, but because sleep had turned into a luxury I couldn't afford. The shelter lights clicked off at midnight and back on at 6. Between those hours, I tossed and turned, replaying Camille's face over and over. The calm way she lied, the little shrug when she said she borrowed my house. I kept wondering how someone raised under the same roof, fed by the same hands, could grow into a person capable of such cruelty. By Tuesday, Mr. Avery called again. "Sharon," he said, "the DA's office traced that black SUV your sister met with." My pulse quickened. "And it's registered to a man named Victor Dane. He's been flagged in 2 other real estate fraud cases across Georgia. He creates fake identities, forges documents, and launders money through shell accounts. My guess? He's the one who reopened your mother's account." I felt my stomach drop. "So Camille wasn't alone?" "No," he said gravely. "She had help, but the paper trail ties her to him directly. They met 3 times in person, one of those being the day before your property sold." I pressed my palm to my forehead. "She really did it! She planned this whole thing?" He sighed. "The DA's preparing charges for conspiracy to commit fraud, forgery, and identity theft. But Sharon, this might take months. Maybe longer. You need to be ready for that. Months." The word felt like a lifetime. After hanging up, I sat on the edge of the cot, staring at the cracked tile floor. Gloria looked up from across the room. "Bad news?" "Not exactly. They're building a case, but it'll take time." She nodded, chewing her lip. "That's how justice works, baby. Slow and heavy." Her words echoed Mama's. "The truth may walk slow, but it never loses its way." Later that afternoon, I decided to visit the church on Auburn Avenue. It was Mama's old church, the place where she'd sung in the choir, the same one Camille and I were baptized in. I hadn't stepped inside since Mama's funeral. The wooden doors creaked as I pushed them open. The air smelled like dust, candles, and old hymns. I slid into the back pew and bowed my head. "Lord, I'm tired. I want to forgive, but I don't know how. I want to heal, but the wound keeps reopening." I didn't expect an answer, but a calm washed over me, a kind of stillness that didn't erase the pain, but reminded me I wasn't alone in it. When I opened my eyes, Pastor Ellis was standing nearby, smiling softly. "Sister Williams," he said. "Haven't seen you in a while." I managed a faint smile. "Then, dealing with some things." "Your mama would be proud of the way you're fighting," he said. "She always said her girls were strong, even when they didn't feel it." Tears filled my eyes. "I don't feel strong, Pastor." He sat beside me. "Strength ain't about feeling it. It's about standing when the world tries to push you down." That night, I called Mr. Avery again. "I want to testify when the time comes," I told him. "I want the court to hear my voice." He agreed. "You deserve that." The next few weeks were a blur of meetings, depositions, and interviews. Every time I told my story, it felt like ripping a bandage off a wound that refused to close. But each time I spoke, it also felt lighter, like I was reclaiming a piece of myself. Then one afternoon, Mr. Avery called again. His voice carried a mix of excitement and caution. "The DA just issued warrants, Sharon. Both Camille and Victor have been indicted." I froze. "You mean they're going to jail?" "For now, yes. They'll have to appear in court next week." I gripped the phone tighter. "Thank you, Mr. Avery. Truly." After I hung up, I just sat there, silent. Gloria came over, and when I told her the news, she hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. "You did it, girl," she said, smiling through tears. "You fought for yourself." But later that night, a strange heaviness crept in. Justice was coming, but instead of feeling victorious, I felt hollow. Camille was my sister, my baby sister, and soon she'd be in handcuffs. When the court day came, I wore the same navy blue dress I'd worn at Mama's funeral, the only decent one I still owned. I sat quietly in the front row as Camille entered the courtroom. She looked smaller somehow, her confidence replaced by a trembling unease. Our eyes met, and for the first time, I didn't see my enemy. I saw a broken woman who'd let greed swallow her whole. When she asked me to testify, my knees shook, but I stood tall. "I worked 14 years for that house," I said, voice trembling but strong. "It wasn't just wood and walls. It was my mother's legacy. My sister didn't just steal property. She stole our memories, our history, our peace." Camille wouldn't meet my eyes. When it was her turn to speak, she finally looked at me. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Her voice cracked. "I thought I was doing what I had to do. I didn't mean for it to go this far." But the judge's gavel fell hard.
echoing through the room. Guilty. Camille was sentenced to 2 years with restitution. Victor got 10. When she was escorted out, she turned to me once more, tears streaming down her face. "Sharon, please don't hate me," I whispered back. "I don't, but I can't save you either." After the sentencing, Mr. Avery smiled faintly. "The courts also ordered the return of your property. The house will be back in your name within 30 days. My knees nearly buckled. I covered my mouth, sobbing quietly. Outside, the air smelled like rain again, but this time, it felt different, softer, cleansing. I walked down the courthouse steps, feeling Mama's presence with every breath. The truth may walk slow, but it never loses its way. As I reached the sidewalk, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. It read, "You think it's over, but Camille wasn't the only one who profited. Some things you shouldn't have dug up." I stopped cold, staring at the screen. The text came with an attachment, a photo of me leaving the courthouse that very morning. My heart pounded. Someone had been watching me.
The message burned on my phone screen like a brand. "You think it's over, but Camille wasn't the only one who profited. Some things you shouldn't have dug up." And the attached photo, me walking down the courthouse steps that morning, made my stomach twist. Someone had been watching, someone who knew where I was and what I'd fought for. For a long minute, I just stood there on the sidewalk, surrounded by people moving in every direction, like I was trapped in slow motion while the world sped on. Then instinct kicked in. I took a screenshot of the message and sent it to Mr. Avery. He called back almost immediately. "Where are you, Sharon?" "Downtown, right outside the courthouse. Don't go anywhere. I'm on my way." When he arrived, he looked more serious than I'd ever seen him. I showed him the phone. He read the message twice, his jaw tightening. "This isn't random," he said. "That picture means whoever sent this has been following you. They could be connected to Victor or someone else tied to the fraud." "Someone else," I repeated. "You mean there's more?" He sighed, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "Victor worked with multiple shell companies. Some were set up in other states, Delaware, Nevada, even overseas. It's possible one of those partners doesn't want the investigation to continue." I swallowed hard. "You think I'm in danger?" He said I should stay alert, change where I'm staying for a while if I can. "I'll notify the DA's office. They'll forward this to the fraud task force." That night, I didn't go back to the shelter. Gloria would worry, but I couldn't risk bringing trouble to those women. I used what little money I'd saved from cleaning jobs to rent a room in a small roadside motel off I-85, the kind of place where the carpets smell like cigarettes and the air conditioner hums louder than your thoughts. Lying in that stiff bed, I replayed the text message in my mind. "Some things you shouldn't have dug up." I thought about Mama, about the house, about Camille crying in court. What could possibly be left to uncover? The next day, I went to see Mr. Avery again. He'd already turned the message over to investigators, but his expression told me he was holding something back. "What aren't you telling me?" I asked. He exhaled slowly. "The DA's office traced another payment linked to your mother's fake account. It didn't end with Victor." "Then who?" He opened a file and slid it toward me. Inside was a transaction receipt. $63,000 wired from Marigold Property Holdings to another account. The account name made my blood run cold. Derek Walker, Camille's ex-boyfriend, the man she claimed left her broke. "He was in on it too," I whispered. Mr. Avery nodded grimly. He helped Victor set up the false accounts. The money Camille said she borrowed never even stayed with her. Derek laundered it. I felt the air leave my chest. So she destroyed me to protect him. "I'm sorry, Sharon. I know this hurts." Hurt didn't even cover it. It felt like betrayal all over again. The wound ripped open for a second time. I'd spent months believing Camille was the mastermind when all along she'd been manipulated by the same man who once pretended to love her. But the message, the threat, wasn't from Derek or Camille. It felt different, colder. That night, I sat in the motel's dim light and pulled out Mama's old Bible, the one I'd managed to keep through everything. Inside, tucked between worn pages, was a folded photo of Mama standing in front of the house. Her smile seemed to say, "Keep going." I whispered to the empty room, "I'm not giving up, Mama. Not yet." The next morning, I decided to return to Waverly Street. The house was supposed to be back in my name within 30 days, but I wanted to see it again. Make sure it was still there, still standing. When I arrived, the sky was heavy with gray clouds. Construction had stopped.
The legal order had frozen all activity, but the scaffolding and tools were still scattered around the yard. I walked slowly up the path, running my fingers along the fence. My heart clenched at the sight of the porch swing Mama and I had painted together years ago, now covered in dust and spider webs. But when I reached the front door, I noticed something strange. The lock was broken, the wood splintered like someone had forced their way in. A chill ran through me. I stepped back, glancing around the street. No one. Not a single neighbor outside. Against my better judgment, I pushed the door open. The house was quiet, too quiet. The air smelled of fresh paint and something else, faintly metallic. My footsteps echoed on the unfinished floor. Then, from somewhere deeper inside, I heard a soft creak. "Hello?" My voice trembled. "Is anyone here?" No answer. I took a cautious step forward. My eyes fell on the kitchen counter, and that's when I saw it. A small envelope propped upright against the coffee maker. My name written on the front in familiar handwriting. Camille's handwriting. My heart pounded as I picked it up and tore it open. Inside was a short note. "Sharon, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was scared. I had no idea what Derek and Victor were really planning. If you're reading this, I'm sorry. Please don't look for me. You'll only get hurt." At the bottom, smudged, but visible, were 2 red fingerprints, like she'd pressed her hands down in panic, or blood. My breath caught. Oh, God. Camille. I dropped the letter and backed away. The floorboard creaked again, this time louder, coming from upstairs. I froze. Then a man's shadow moved across the wall, right at the top of the staircase.
For a heartbeat, I couldn't move. The shadow stretched long across the wall, flickering with each pulse of lightning through the broken window. My breath hitched. My fingers trembled so badly the letter slipped from my hand, landing softly on the dusty floorboards. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice cracking halfway through the word. Silence. Then a slow creak. One step, then another. The sound of weight shifting, wood groaning under the tread of boots. Whoever it was, they were coming down. I stumbled backward toward the living room, eyes darting for something, anything I could use. My hand found a broken broom handle leaning against the wall. Not much, but it made me feel less helpless. Another flash of lightning lit the stairwell. For an instant, I saw him, a tall man in a dark jacket, face half shadowed, his eyes glinting like glass. I gripped the handle tighter. "This is private property. I've already called the police." That was a lie. My phone was still in the car. The man stopped halfway down the stairs, his voice low and calm. "Sharon Harris?" Hearing my name sent a chill through me. "Who are you?" He raised his hand slowly, palms out. "I'm not here to hurt you." "Then what are you doing in my house?" I shot back. He hesitated. "It used to be your house, and I think we both know it hasn't been safe for a long time." The storm rumbled outside, thunder shaking the walls. I took another step back. "You've got 10 seconds to start explaining." "My name's Malik Rivers, private investigator. I was hired by Camille." I froze. "Camille?" He nodded. 2 months ago, she told me she'd made a mistake, that people were after her. She wanted me to look into Victor and Derek, but before she could meet me again, she disappeared." I didn't know whether to believe him. His voice was steady, but his eyes, there was something tired behind them, something that had seen too much. "She left a note," I said quietly. "Downstairs. She said she didn't mean for it to go this far." Malik stepped off the last stair. Careful, slow. "Then we're on the same side." I lowered the broom handle an inch, but my pulse didn't slow. If that's true, why break in? "Because someone else was already here," he said. "I found the back door wide open when I arrived. I think whoever's been sending those messages knows you've been talking to the DA." My mind raced. "You know about that?" "I've been following this case since Camille first came to me. Victor wasn't just running property scams. He was laundering money for people with connections, dangerous ones." He moved closer, his tone quieter now. "That's why Camille ran. She thought disappearing would protect you." I shook my head, trying to process it. "She stole my house. She ruined my life. And now you want me to believe she did it to protect me?" Malik's jaw tightened. "She was trying to fix what she broke, but she got in too deep." I didn't answer. My chest hurt, the kind of ache that comes when you want to hate someone, but love won't let you.
Outside, sirens wailed faintly in the distance, a sound I couldn't tell was coming closer or going away. Malik's gaze darted toward the window. "We should go," he said suddenly. "Now." "Where?" "There's a safe place on the edge of town, an old motel I use when I'm tracking clients. We can talk there. I'll show you what I found." I hesitated. And if this is another lie, he met my eyes squarely. "Then you'll be the one holding the weapon." Something in his tone made me believe him, even if only halfway. I grabbed my phone and Camille's letter, stuffed them into my bag, and followed him out into the rain. We drove in silence, the windshield wipers beating a rhythm against the storm. Every few minutes, Malik checked his rear view mirror. I could feel tension rolling off him like static. At the motel, he parked under a faded sign that read, "Sunset Haven," faded paint, peeling wood, the kind of place that forgot the world had moved on. Inside, the air smelled faintly of coffee and mildew. Malik locked the door, then opened a file folder from his bag. He laid out several photos on the table. Receipts, bank transfers, property records. One name appeared over and over: Marigold Holdings. This company wasn't just a front for Victor. It's owned by a shell corporation registered overseas. And the name listed on those papers isn't Derek's. He slid one document toward me. The name printed there made my skin prickle. "Reginald Walker," I whispered. "Derek's father." Malik nodded grimly. "He's the real architect. Victor and Derek worked for him. Your sister was manipulated, first with promises, then threats." I sat back, numb. All this time, I thought Camille and her boyfriend had betrayed me for greed, but they were pawns in something far uglier. "Why would Reginald do this?" I asked. "He's been flipping foreclosed homes for years, using fake heirs and forged deeds to move the profits through clean accounts. When your mother passed, the property value jumped. You were an easy target. One signature, and they had everything." My throat tightened. So Camille was just caught up in it. "He still made her choices," Malik said quietly, "but she tried to make it right. I think that's why she left you the note." I looked down at my trembling hands. The anger that had kept me alive for months was dissolving into something else. Grief, confusion, maybe even forgiveness. Then Malik's phone buzzed. He frowned, answering quickly. "Yeah?" A pause. His face went pale. "Understood." He hung up, eyes meeting mine. "That was one of my contacts. Reginald Walker was found dead an hour ago." My heart stopped. "Dead? How?" "Shot. Execution style. And whoever did it took his laptop and documents." The air in the room felt heavy, electric. "You think Camille?" He shook his head no. "If she were alive and nearby, she'd have reached out by now. This feels like cleanup." Lightning flashed through the blinds, and for an instant, Malik's shadow stretched across the wall, the same angle as the one I'd seen on the staircase. "Whoever's behind this," he said, his voice low, "they're not done. And now that you've reopened the case, they know your name too." I didn't speak, couldn't. Outside, thunder rolled again, long, slow, and distant, like something coming closer. The motel room felt like a cage. Rain still hissed outside, tapping against the cracked window, each drop echoing the pounding of my heart. Reginald Walker was dead, and that meant one of two things. Either justice had finally caught up with him, or someone was erasing the trail that could lead back to the others. I stared at the papers Malik had spread across the bed. Receipts, fake contracts, bank wires, proof of a scheme that had swallowed my life whole, my house, my savings, my peace. Malik paced the narrow space between the bed and the door, muttering half sentences to himself, fingers drumming on the file folder. If Reginald's gone, then the evidence is gone too, unless Camille kept something. "She left me a letter," I said softly. "Maybe there's more I didn't see." He looked up. "Where?" "In my car. I brought it with me." I pulled the envelope from my bag. The paper had gone soft around the edges from my hands gripping it too tightly. I unfolded it again. The lines blurred, but one sentence caught my eye this time. "I left the truth where Mama always said our home kept its secrets." Malik leaned over my shoulder. "What does that mean?" I swallowed hard. "The crawl space. beneath the kitchen floor. He nodded slowly. Then that's where we're going. Every instinct screamed that going back was a mistake, but something in me knew this was the last piece. The storm outside had quieted to a drizzle by the time we reached the old neighborhood. My headlights cut through the fog like tired eyes. The house looked hollow now. Boarded windows, a new padlock on the door, weeds growing where Mama's roses used to bloom. My throat tightened. Malik jimmied the lock with practiced ease. We stepped inside, flashlights cutting through the dark. The air smelled of mold and dust, old memories rotting under the weight of betrayal. "This way," I whispered. We moved into the kitchen. The linoleum tiles were peeling at the corners. Same as before. I knelt where Mama used to keep her old flower bin, her secret spot, she called it. I pressed my fingers to the floor. One loose board wobbled. With a sharp tug, it lifted free. Beneath it, a small wooden box sat wedged between the beams. My breath hitched. Malik crouched beside me. "You found it." The box was wrapped in faded fabric. One of Mama's scarves. My hand shook as I untied it and opened the lid. Inside were photographs, a worn notebook, and a flash drive sealed in tape. I flipped open the notebook first. Camille's handwriting filled every page. I didn't know until it was too late. One entry began. They told me if I didn't sign the papers, they would make it look like I forged Mama's will. Reginald said no one would believe me. Not after the loan Derek took in my name. Tears blurred my vision. I thought if I gave them the house, it would keep Sharon safe, but they kept asking for more. "I'm sorry, sis. I'm so sorry." Malik took the flash drive carefully. "We need to see what's on this." He pulled his laptop from his bag, setting it on the counter. The screen flickered to life, the glow carving at his face in the dark kitchen. Files appeared, dozens of them. Scans of forged deeds, false loan approvals, even bank statements tied to shell accounts. The last folder made my heart stop. Victim list. Malik opened it. My name was third. Beneath it, 8 others, names I didn't recognize, each tagged with property values, dates, and payouts. "This is it," Malik whispered, enough to bury everyone involved. Just as relief started to seep into my chest, a low rumble echoed outside. Not thunder, an engine. Malik's eyes snapped toward the window. "Turn off the light." I killed the laptop screen. We stood still, listening. Footsteps crunched on the gravel outside, slow and deliberate. "Who would know we're here?" I whispered. Malik's expression hardened. "Only the DA and one other person." Before I could ask, the front door rattled once, twice. Then a man's voice called through, muffled but unmistakable. "Sharon, it's me. Open up. Derek." Every nerve in my body went cold. Malik motioned for me to stay quiet, but Derek's voice grew louder. "I know you're in there. I saw your car outside." He slammed a fist against the door. "I didn't mean for this to happen. You need to listen to me." I couldn't stop trembling. The same man who signed away my home was now outside in the dark, shouting apologies, like they meant something. Malik leaned close, whispering, "He's desperate. He wouldn't come here unless he needed something." The door shook again. "Reginald's dead. You don't understand. They'll come after me next." Malik's cursed under his breath. "He's running from whoever killed his father." I couldn't take it anymore. I stepped toward the door. Malik grabbed my arm, whispering fiercely, "Don't. You open that door, you may not walk away." But something inside me cracked. The anger, the grief, the years of silence, it all collided at once. I yanked free, shouting through the door, "You already took everything from me, Derek. What more could you possibly want?" The other side went quiet. Then his voice softened, shaken. "I just want to live, Sharon. Please. They think I have the files." Malik's face went pale. "He doesn't know we do." We exchanged a look, one that said everything without words. Another sound broke the silence. Tires screeching on wet pavement. A second car pulling up fast. Headlights swept through the window, blinding white. Malik grabbed my wrist. "Back room now." We ducked behind the hallway wall. As the front door burst open, gunfire ripped through the entryway, splintering wood. Derek screamed. Short, sharp, then nothing. Covered my mouth, heart hammering. Malik shielded me as heavy footsteps entered. Voices murmured. 2 men, maybe 3. One said, "Search the house. Find the drive." We stayed frozen, pressed against the cold plaster. The weight of breath and fear pressed between us. Then one of them stepped closer, slow, methodical, boots creaking on the floorboards, clutched Malik's arm, and he whispered, barely above breath, "When I say go, we run." A flashlight beam passed inches from our faces. Go! We bolted through the back door, stumbling into the rain, mud splashing up our legs. Malik fired his gun once into the air. Not to hit, but to startle. Behind us, shouts erupted, more gunfire answering. We dove behind my car, the engine still warm from the drive over. Malik pulled open the driver's side door, tossing me the keys. Drive, Sharon, now! I floored the gas, gravel spitting under the tires. The old house grew smaller in the rearview mirror, orange muzzle flashes lighting up the windows one last time. Tears streamed down my face as I gripped the wheel. He's dead, isn't he? Malik's voice was low. Yeah, and now they'll think we have what they came for. We didn't speak the rest of the drive. The rain swallowed the road, and all I could think of was Mama's voice in my memory. Soft but firm. Home is where truth stays buried until the right hands find it. Now that truth had found me, and it was bleeding.
The world blurred around me as I drove through the storm. Headlights streaked past like ghosts. Malik's voice was distant, calm but taut, as he kept glancing behind us, watching for the shadows that might be following me. When we finally pulled off the highway, dawn was beginning to break. The rain had stopped, leaving a faint pink glow on the horizon. We parked behind an abandoned diner, half swallowed by vines and silence. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. He's dead. Derek's gone. And Camille, Reginald, everyone who touched this... I stopped, breath catching. It all turned to ashes. Malik turned toward me, his expression softer than I'd ever seen it. Ashes make room for something new, Sharon. You did what none of them could. You survived. I looked down at the flash drive clenched in my palm. It was warm from my hand, small and unassuming, but I knew it held lives inside it. Stories of people like me who'd lost everything. What that is surviving, I said bitterly, when you've got nothing left? Malik leaned back, rubbing his jaw. You've got truth, you've got strength, and you've got me to help you make this right. The words sank in. For months, I'd been living off anger and loss. Now, all that remained was exhaustion and a fragile kind of hope. We spent the next few hours hiding in that diner, uploading the evidence to an encrypted folder and sending copies to the district attorney's office, local reporters, and one of Malik's federal contacts. I watched each file upload bar inch forward like a heartbeat, praying we'd live to see it finish. When it was done, Malik exhaled. It's out there now. No one can bury it again. I nodded, staring out the cracked window as sunlight began to spill over the horizon. It was the same color as Mama's kitchen curtains used to be. That soft golden warmth that made everything feel alive. Malik, I said quietly, what happens to people like me after the truth comes out? He smiled faintly. You start again. Maybe smaller, maybe slower, but you start. That night, I didn't sleep. I thought about Camille, about how she must have carried the weight of her guilt every day, too scared to call, too ashamed to explain. I thought about Derek, whose greed had eaten him alive, and Reginald, whose empire of lies had finally crumbled under its own sin. By sunrise, I decided to go back to Mama's house. One last time. The place was cordoned off by yellow tape now, the smell of smoke still lingering in the air from the gunfire that had ripped through its walls. The police were gone, the neighbors still whispering behind their curtains. I stepped across the threshold. Dust motes floated through the shafts of morning light. The floorboards creaked under my feet like they remembered me. I walked to the kitchen, where the crawl space was still open, where Camille's scarf and notebook had been. I knelt down and touched the edge of the board. I forgive you, I whispered into the quiet. You were my sister. You made mistakes, but you loved Mama just like I did. And maybe that love was the only honest thing we had left. Tears slipped down my cheeks, but they didn't feel heavy this time. They felt like release. When I stood, Malik was in the doorway, watching silently. He didn't speak, didn't try to comfort me. He just nodded once, the kind of nod that said, you did what you came to do. Later that week, the DA held a press conference. The fraud ring was exposed. Arrests were made. Lawyers, brokers, even a city official. My name came up in the reports, not as a victim, but as the whistleblower whose courage broke the case open. I didn't attend the press conference. Instead,
I sat on a park bench near the old church Mama used to take us to, watching children play in the grass. I felt sunlight on my face for the first time in what felt like years. Malik called that afternoon. They're offering you compensation, he said, from the restitution fund. It's not everything, but it's a start. I smiled faintly. How much? $63,000. The number hit me like a ghost. The same amount Camille had stolen from me. Maybe God did have a sense of symmetry after all. That evening, I took the first walk I'd had in peace since the day everything fell apart. I passed by the old community center, the one I used to volunteer at before the chaos. The sign out front read, "Help Needed, Women's Housing Initiative." I stopped. Maybe this was my start. I walked inside. The woman at the front desk looked up, her eyes kind. "Can I help you?" "Yes," I said, smiling for real this time. "I think maybe I can help you." Over the next few months, I started volunteering there, helping women who lost their homes, teaching them how to rebuild credit, how to hold their heads high, even when the world tried to bow them down. And each time I spoke, I thought of Mama's voice again. Your home isn't just four walls. It's the love you leave behind. Malik still checked in sometimes, though he'd moved on to other cases. He'd always end our calls the same way. "You're the toughest woman I've ever met." And maybe for the first time I believed it, because I'd been broken and betrayed, but I had rebuilt. Not the house, but myself. Now when I walk past those old streets, I don't see loss anymore. I see light through cracked windows, resilience in every brick. I stop to breathe it all in, the warmth, the forgiveness, the freedom of letting go. And then I smile and say, almost to myself, almost to Mama, if you learned something new from my life story, please like this video, subscribe for more stories like mine, and comment down below where you're watching this video from. I'd truly love to know.